So today I'm actually going to interview my bonding agent, and I'm doing this because when I started my business, I didn't need bonding. Matter of fact, when someone told me I needed a bond, I'm like, I thought bonds were just to get people out of jail. That's how ignorant I was about it. So I had to actually educate myself and found this amazing bonding agent that's been able to help me. We were able to get a $500,000 bond for a project that we were bidding on. And it's just gone great. So I want to introduce you to my bonding agent because if you're in business and you want to work with the government, at some point in time, you may need the bond. And what happens is you want to have access to the bonds before you need the bond because it's going to help your company stand out. So I'm going to introduce you to Sean Kirwan, who is a principal with Commercial Insurance Associates, LLC, a 20-year-old agency based in Nashville, Tennessee. And he's part of the Mid-Atlantic team of CIA.
Sean has over 15 years of experience in the surety industry, both as an underwriter and agent. He has provided bonds for a number of different industries, but is primarily focused on representing companies in the construction and government contracting sectors.
So, Sean, thank you for having this conversation with me today.
Hey, Montina, thanks so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So, Sean, we met, it's been a while. It's been about over a year or so at the time of this call. And I didn't know anything about bonds at all. I run a service-based marketing agency. We do training and development, consulting. We help businesses rethink business for the digital age. And we had this airport contract that had a bond attached to it. So for those that are completely new to bonds and were like me, maybe have been like me, thinking that you only need them to get out of jail, explain to us why it's important or what a bond is to that new business owner that's being introduced to this.
Sure. Yeah. And you're, like so many where the bonding industry is a very small industry that not many people know about. But, when it comes to construction, it comes to any public job that the government puts out, whether that be at the federal or state level or local municipality, all construction projects over 150,000 are requires bonding. And what that does is, since construction is one of the more riskier industries, second to only restaurants and businesses that fail, within 5 years, the bonding helps you. Not only does it help pre-qualify the person performing the job, but it also guarantees the actual contract that you're bidding on. So, for example, if I'm going after a project for a public agency, I have to post a bond upon award, and that basically guarantees that I will complete the job to all the specs and to all the conditions and meet all the requirements outlined in the contract. And if not, then I have someone that's behind me backing that project and can step in to guarantee that project. And why that's so important is that it's the credit tool that basically protects the taxpayers' money. So unlike insurance, where the surety bonds are provided by insurance companies, but there's a distinct difference between both of those products. One, insurance, it expects there to be a loss, but surety bonds are written and provided for zero loss. So the surety is not expecting that person to have a loss, and hence why they're bonding that contract. So it's more of a credit tool, surety bonds, and help guarantee contracts for any public job. But the underwriting that goes into it, and what most people don't know, is that it helps you from a pre-qualification standpoint. So in order to qualify for bonds, you have surety underwriters and companies will look at three different areas. Look at called the 3 C's: capacity, character, and capital. Capital, looking at your financial situation. Sometimes in certain situations you can qualify for bonds just based off your personal credit. Or the underwriters will look at your company financials or your personal financials to see if how you treat your finances personally is likely how you'll treat your company finances if you just get up and running. So that's 1 C. The second C is capacity. So have you had experience in this particular job that you're going after? Do you have a track record in successfully executing these type contracts? And do you work with this particular owner on a regular basis? And 3 is the character portion. So surety underwriters and companies will look at the character piece, meaning they want to meet with their clients. They want to kind of take a look at, do you have any criminal records? Do you have any tax liens? Do you have any issues personally that may be a red flag to them from an underwriting standpoint? So that's what they're looking at, and all that does is it helps you pre-qualify for these bonds that you can market, that you can put on your capability statement. You can put on the side of your truck, say bonded and insured. So it helps you from not only just to qualify for these projects, but it gives you and companies a tool they can market and promote for their company.
That's a great summary. And for those of you that are listening, it's important. We actually have it on our website that we're fully bonded up to $500K and insured up to $2 million. And we use it all the time. It's in our capability statement, like Sean said. And again, they have the 3 C's: capacity, character, and capital. So Sean, when we're talking about, and in addition to that, it can help you pre-qualify. So as you're going into opportunities, they're going to ask for this bond because it's going to guarantee the contract for public jobs. So working in the government sector, this is something that you need to have. Sean, talking about credit. So I'm going to tell you, I work with a lot of certified minority and women-owned entrepreneurs, many of them just starting out with their businesses, or some 20 plus years in their business. And credit can be something that is a challenge. So what type of credit score are you all looking for in terms from the personal side? Are you going with the PAYDEX score on the business side? So help us understand how you determine if someone is going to be bond worthy.
Sure. From the capital standpoint, when we're talking about emerging business that's just starting out, maybe the credit is in a little bit of a tight situation, if you will, and it's a little bit leveraged. As long as the personal credit does not have, say, a bankruptcy within the last 5 to 10 years, or it has a significant tax liens or a history of tax liens, those are indicators where it would be very tough to help qualify for bonds on a larger scale. Now, there are surety markets that will look at harder, difficult credit situations. So there are markets out there, but overall, the jumping off point is usually 650 personal credit score, and that will help you qualify for that $500,000 to $750,000 of per bond that you need. That's typically a jumping off point. There are other markets that look at a couple other different factors, but they also want to take into consideration your personal finances. How are you? Do you have cash in the bank? You have a lot of debt or credit card bills that maybe are associated with something else, or that you're just treating your personal finances like you will treat your company finances going forward. So there's a couple factors that they look at. One of the ways to get around the qualifying for bonds on your own and under your company, especially in the federal arena, this is what we specialize in at CIA, is teaming arrangements or potential partnering opportunities to help qualify for that bond that maybe it's a little bit over what you could qualify for individually and or as a company as you're starting out. So that's another, I'm sure we'll get to that topic shortly, but that's another way to help kind of circumvent the qualifying for bonds on your own, is to help team or joint venture or some sort of partnering arrangement where you can help qualify for a larger bond that makes sense, that the job makes sense for you and you have experience with. So
that actually happened with us. So when we actually were going for the bond, I don't know if this was the second time, we actually did not want to be prime on a specific project, but the company that we wanted to be prime actually could not qualify for the bond. So because I could qualify for the bond, we actually became prime and they were going to be the sub. So that is important. Now, when we're talking about the bonds, of course, we hear these numbers, $500,000, $1 million. What does it at? What type? How much is a bond up front?
So bond costs, it's stepping back, how they rate a bond and the cost of a bond is much different than, say, your typical insurance policies. And insurance is those premiums are calculated over historical data by actuaries that look at a number of different things and come up with a number that drives your premium. On the bond side, these rates are usually filed by the individual state. So, each state has somewhat of their own different bond rates. Texas and California have a little bit more kooky rates than other states, but they're all based on, one, with the state, and then two, your class code. So what type of business that you're doing. They're going to rate a paving contract a little bit different than they're going to rate a demolition contract, just say. So it depends on the class code, and it also depends. The rates are usually 0.5% to all the way up to 3%. Typical average cost of a bond. So as a emerging type business and someone who's just opening up their own shop, usually the bond costs are in that 2 to 3% range, depending on other financial factors. But the typical range is 0.5 to 3%. And it's all based on class code and the individual states that you're working in.
I want to provide a little bit of clarity here. So when he's talking about the cost of the bond, and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you do not pay for the bond. Like we have a $500,000 bond on our company, but we've never paid anything for that bond. You pay for the bond once you actually get that contract. If we have that contract, then you pay a percentage of the bond. So for instance, keeping it easy, when we receive a contract and we have the $500,000 bond, that then again, it gets attached to that contract that you have to turn in with that. Actually you turn them in with the RFP and then they hold it. Your entity is going to hold it. That's when you'll pay that 0.5% to whatever 4%, let's just say. Sure. So that means, let's make it easy at 2%. If I have a $500,000 bond, I'll pay $10,000 over to Mr. Kirwan's company. So Sean's company is going to get that $10,000. You do not get that $10,000 back, meaning the DBE will not get that back. Correct, Sean?
Correct. So let's even break it down even further. So if you're bidding on a potential project and it's going to be awarded to the lowest bid, the lowest responsible bid, you will have to provide what's called a bid bond. And a bid bond does not cost anything. So if you're bidding on a project and you get pre-qualified by a surety company, they'll provide you that bid bond for free. And that bid bond guarantees that if you are a low bidder and awarded the contract, then you will faithfully enter into the contract and provide the necessary performance and payment bonds. Performance and payment bonds are needed once you're awarded that contract. So once you get the contract, you get a letter or an email from the owner saying, "Congratulations, Montina, you are successful and awarded this contract." And it also says further down that letter, it says you have 10 days typically to provide performance and payment bonds, and then you can start that contract. So once that happens, once those final performance payment bonds are referenced as final bonds, once those final bonds are submitted to the owner, after we'll get that request, we prepare them for you, seal them, put a power of attorney on them, provide them back to you so you can submit to the owner in original form, and which has been interesting the last couple of months that the industry is trying to have more owners accept digital bonds, but that's another topic for another day. You'll have to provide that to the owner. The owner checks the bonds and gives you the okay. Now, that's when you'll get a bill from myself or the bonding agent saying that here's what's due on the bond. And usually you have within 30 days to pay that bill. And why that is that, most times you will have that bond cost in your pricing of that project. You would know ahead of time that it was going to require bonding, and hopefully you would start that process. Or if you don't need bonds just yet on projects, maybe you get that in place just so you have that from a pricing standpoint so you can put that into your bid. But you'll have that idea, and you have 30 days to pay that bill because you can submit that as a pay rec within your first invoice to the owner. Bonds are usually a reimbursable pass-through cost to the owner, especially in the federal arena.
Yes.
But if you don't include in your bid, then and you have to provide performance payment bonds, then that would have to come out of your pocket. So.
Yeah. So we're clear. We are talking, Sean and I today with our conversation are talking about, government opportunities. Now, this may be different for private sector, but for right now, for the purposes of this conversation, it's if you are a DBE, if you're an MBE, if you're not, if you want to do work with the Department of Transportation, you want to do work with the aviation, with the airport industry, if you want to do work on construction, state, local, you will need to get a bond. And so now is the time to be having a conversation with Sean from a character standpoint, building a relationship. And I actually understand in business how important relationships are. And I will say this, I work with people where there's a win-win. So Sean and I are always looking for opportunities I keep him informed, almost like my banker. I'm really big on relationships with my banker. When my company, when we shifted and said, hey, we're expanding to help certified minority and women-owned businesses win more business, I said, Sean, look, this is what we do. He's like, great, I have some people you need to talk to. Then when I'm at events and they're like, well, who here does bonding? Two people stand up. I'm now looking around like, wait a minute, I know someone that's phenomenal because he's going to help you. And if you need something, he knows people in the federal arena that can help mentor you. I recently sent him a referral and the person wasn't ready for a business that they were going to say yes to. And I mean, it was like over $100 million that they were going to say yes to something that may have turned out to be detrimental to them, their business, everything. But Sean pointed them into the right direction to get a mentor that could help them. So, Sean, anything else that, I haven't asked you that we need to know about bonds? Oh, you know what? Actually, as we get it, do you send us a copy of the bond? Is it something we can, post on our websites? How does that work?
So the bonds that we provide back to you are usually in your contract. It'll say you'll have to post these type of bonds. Now, there's either AIA bonds or sometimes the owner will leave it up to you and your surety to figure out what bond form to provide. But once we get that request, those bonds are provided back to you and you can submit them to the owner for that job. Now you can make a copy for yourself. And there's no real reason to post those copies of the bonds on your website because that's obviously classified, contracts that you are working on. So you'll get a copy and then we record it. And we obviously, if it's a longer duration or if it renews on an annual basis, then we manage that for you instead of you having to realize, my bond's renewing in a couple of weeks. I got to call Sean. We do that for you, manage that process for you. And also wanted to add that the bonds just don't benefit contractors. So there's thousands of bonds out there, and contract surety bonds are more for construction and those performance and payment bonds that we discussed. Then there's another side to surety where it's commercial surety opportunities. And these are requirements that are passed down by each state or each municipality where they may be guaranteeing a license to do business. They may be guaranteeing, some sort of court responsibility. So there's a whole other side to surety where there's thousands of bonds out there. And, if you were having to, get a license to be in business in a certain jurisdiction or state, sometimes those licenses will require you to post a bond, and that bond guarantees that you will abide by the laws of the state, and you will operate in accordance with that, with your license.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that I have a few more questions. I mean, this is actually really good information, even for me. And again, those of you listening, you're going to need this. So take notes. And here's a few more questions I have, Sean, before we wrap up. Do I need more than one bond? So if I am approved for a bond for specific airport opportunity, and then another opportunity opens up for municipality, can I have more than one bond?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What our job is, in addition to facilitating and handling your bonds, is to negotiate with the surety companies that we represent in order to maximize and enhance your bonding capabilities. And what that looks like is we usually will negotiate a some sort of program or parameters that you can operate on under and have multiple bonds, under that program. So usually it's a single limit and then an aggregate limit, which basically says you can have bonds up to a certain amount, per job, and then aggregate wise over the course of, say, a year. So we manage that for you. We negotiate that for you. But it's unless you are not an active bond user, then it doesn't really behoove you to have a program in place. Maybe you need a bond every now and then, and we can handle that process for you. But for if you're going to have bonding activity throughout the year, it's better to establish a program. Actually you have that at any time and at any notice when these bonds come along. So you can have as many bonds as you want, and we help manage those parameters for you that you qualify for.
Good. Now, what happens if you don't get the project?
So if you don't get the project, usually the bid, if you had to post a bid bond, the bid bond is usually returned to you within a certain amount of time, and you'll get notified that you are not low, and that bid bond will be returned at some point. Every owner has a different time frame that they operate under, but you'll get that bond back, and you can either we send it back to us, or you can destroy it yourself. But that's the end of that. So those bonds are live instruments. So it's always imperative not to have that just sitting around or fall in the wrong hands. There's been case law where someone's got intercepted a bond and used it on another project they were going after, and it turned out to be a fraudulent bond. So these are live instruments set for your contract and for you and for your benefit. So we take those handling of the bonds pretty seriously to make sure that it doesn't get in the wrong hands.
That's really important to know, you all. Make sure that you destroy the bond once you get it back into your hands, and that's good. So, Sean, what happens if so we're having this conversation and people are like, I want to work with Sean because I want him to know me, my business, see if I can get some referrals. Can I switch bonding companies? If they already have a bond with another company, can they switch to your company and work with you?
Sure. Usually what that process looks like is, if you don't have any bonding relationships in place, we obviously be happy to talk to you and help you through that process. But if you are with someone, and maybe it's your insurance agent, and maybe they don't specialize in providing bonding. We've seen situations before where insurance agents are different than bonding agents. There's some hybrid folks out there, but typically, if your insurance agent is providing your bonds and doesn't have a specialty in that one area, that can be detrimental to you, and maybe you're not getting the best access to surety markets, or you're not getting the best advice to enhance your bonding program. Nothing against your current insurance agent if he's doing that currently, but it maybe makes sense to find a bond professional that knows the industry, knows the surety markets, knows how to enhance your bonds and how to qualify for bonds going forward. And you touched on this earlier. The important thing is that we're not just bonds and bond agents are just not providing a commodity here. And our approach is a little bit different. We want to be a little more hands-on. We want to help be a true partner and resource for you, not just when it comes to bonds, but like you said earlier, knowing a good consultant, knowing a good CPA, knowing a good banker, knowing a good lawyer. We're not going to, put a emerging business with a CPA who's been around for 100 years and cost an arm and a leg to get a reviewed statement. That doesn't make sense. But we're going to put you and surround you with good partners that you can benefit from and that will help enhance your business going forward. And that's what your bond agent really should be doing, is more of a hands-on advisor. We have the unique perspective of seeing number of different contractors, number of different size contractors, all different industries, who's doing what, where the losses are happening, how companies can fail, whether it be grown too fast or they get outside their core capabilities. We have that unique perspective to help your company grow, develop, get better, find your niche, and be successful. And that's how a bonding agent should operate And that's our approach, is more of a hands-on business advisor, resource for you in a number of different ways, whether it be referring you to a good GC, or vetting your subs, or making sure that you're doing all the right things from a business owner standpoint. That maybe you don't have time to be looking at and focused on. Too many times business owners have so much going on.
Right.
But where they're really needed is focus on their core competency in their business, and they don't have to. They can't be consumed with worrying about interviewing 3 bankers or getting to know a new CPA. It's because they just don't have time for that. So we try to come in and provide that context of here's who you should be talking to, here's who they represent themselves, and here's why it's a good fit. And so that the whole holistic approach of being a true business advisor is what we offer and what we strive to do. Now, sometimes business owners may not want all that, but that's fine. But that's our approach from day one, and it's kind of our commitment to each of our clients.
Well, if you're not sold on Sean Kirwan after this, then I just don't know what else to tell you. I am not being compensated in any way, shape, or form. My bond comes based on my credit score, and he said my capital, my character. And it's just that I like recommending people and resources that really will help you win. When I was certified back in 2013, I was confused, I was frustrated, I was just not informed. And when we finally cracked the code and figured it out by 2018, I was really just looking around like, okay, what do I do now? I don't want you to be in that situation. I want you to have the tools, resources, and people on your team that can help you win. So Sean, where can those listening in get in contact with you?
Yes. So our website is www.com-ins.com. My name is Sean Kirwan, SeanKirwan. You can look me up on LinkedIn, or please just ask Montina for my contact info, and be happy to put you in touch with me. Be happy to talk with anyone who's either starting out or maybe needs a second opinion. To get bonding established, it does not cost anything. I'm not on an hourly rate, so you can call me whenever. I work with a number of different entities and industries, mostly focused on the construction and government contracting arenas. So working with small emerging companies all the way up to large defense contractors, you name it, and all in between. So please feel free to reach out, and would love to be a resource for you.
There you have it. So again, you can reach out to him. He's really active on LinkedIn. And if you're listening to me, you know that you need to be on LinkedIn, Sean Kirwan. And if you're connected to me, just send me a quick message and I'll be happy to make an introduction. And again, the website is COM, and then it's a dash INS. So like com insurance, but comins.com. Sean, thanks so much for providing such great information today, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.